The Galactic Academy of Unified Sciences was not a place for the faint-hearted. It stood on a floating station orbiting a gas giant, a colossal hub where students from hundreds of worlds came to learn about the universe, its creatures, and the laws that held everything together. From tiny insectoid beings with 12 eyes to towering reptilian scholars, the academy was a kaleidoscope of life. Among them, humans were rare. One human cadet, Eli Grant, had already earned a reputation across multiple classes, whispered about in corners where no instructor could hear. The Deathworlder. Eli's reputation came from stories that sounded almost mythical to the other students. They said he came from a planet where everything tried to kill you, from enormous beasts that stalked the jungles to storms that could tear cities apart in minutes. To his alien classmates, this sounded terrifying. To Eli, it was just life. He walked through the academy corridors with a calm ease, carrying his books and a small survival kit that included a folding knife, a flashlight, and a first aid kit. Today, the Academy's Predator Interaction class had an atmosphere thicker than usual. The lab hall was filled with strange containment units, each designed for creatures from different planets. The biggest cage sat in the center, reinforced with a material called tritonium mesh, shimmering faintly under the fluorescent lights. Inside, a Tharn beast paced back and forth. Its fur was dark, bristling like steel, and its 4 eyes glimmered with an intelligence that unsettled even the more seasoned cadets. Its claws scraped against the floor with a metallic screech. The alien students murmured among themselves. Some were shaking, some pale, and others tried to hide behind oversized lab tables. Humans were usually known for ingenuity, but none of them had ever seen one handle a creature like the Tharn beast calmly. Eli, however, simply adjusted the straps on his utility belt and watched with quiet attention, his expression neutral. Professor Krith, a 6-eyed insectoid with long, jointed limbs and a voice that buzzed when excited, stood at the front. His antennae twitched constantly, measuring the room's nervous energy. "Today, each of you will enter the cage's safety threshold and interact with the Tharn beast," he announced, his voice echoing off the walls. "Your task is not to harm it. Observe, respond, and learn to control the situation without weapons. Remember, it reacts to fear more than to anything else." The room went silent. Even the older alien cadets looked uneasy. Some of them had been training for months, yet their species had never experienced anything as aggressive as the Tharn beast. When Professor Krith called names, the first few students were trembling. Tentacles, claws, and multiple legs had been known to quiver as students hesitated. Each interaction ended with minor scratches or deep, humbling lessons about the creature's strength. Whispers filled the room. How will the humans do this? Then it was Eli's turn. He walked forward slowly, deliberately, keeping his eyes on the beast. He did not shout, did not stiffen, and did not take out any device from his belt. The cage door opened just enough for him to step onto the reinforced platform. The Tharn beast froze, its eyes narrowing on him. Every alien student leaned forward, holding their breath. "Remember," Professor Krith buzzed, "any sudden movement could trigger it." Eli nodded. He crouched slightly, placing his hands lightly on his knees. His movements were calm, deliberate. He remembered his childhood on Earth, hiking through thick forests where wild animals could strike at any moment. There he learned to be calm, to move in a way that said, "I am not a threat, but I am aware of you." The Tharn beast growled low, a vibration felt through the floor. It stepped forward, claws scraping against the metal. The room collectively gasped. Aliens started to pull back, some whispering prayers to their gods. But Eli stayed still. Slowly he extended one hand, not to strike, not to pet, just to signal acknowledgement. The beast stopped, sniffed, and circled him once. It studied him carefully, time seemed to stretch. The alien students could barely breathe. None had ever seen a being, human or otherwise, face a predator of this scale without trembling or panicking. Eli maintained eye contact with the Tharn beast, breathing steadily, his posture relaxed yet ready. The tension in the room was like a solid wall. Then, in a moment that seemed impossible, the Tharn beast lowered its head slightly and stepped back. The growl softened to a rumble. Its tail flicked once, then settled. Eli straightened slowly, not taking his eyes off the creature. He whispered almost to himself, "You just have to respect it." Professor Krith's antennae quivered in astonishment. The room was silent. Aliens blinked in disbelief. Some had recorded the scene with their devices, their hands shaking. One cadet muttered, "Did he tame it?" Eli didn't answer. He simply reached behind him, closed the cage door, and walked off the platform as if it were the most ordinary thing in the world. The Tharn beast returned to its pacing, still agitated but not attacking. The humans who had heard stories about Deathworlders nodded quietly to themselves, knowing that calm and understanding could control what sheer force never could. In the following minutes, alien students tried to mimic Eli's technique under Professor Krith's supervision. Most failed. Some panicked, making sudden movements, and the Tharn beast lunged at the nearest barrier. Others froze completely, their eyes wide. Eli watched quietly from a distance, letting the lesson sink in without speaking. Later, as the class ended, Tira, a timid aquatic alien, approached him. Her skin shimmered in blues and greens, her small fins trembling. How did you stay calm?" she asked softly. "Even watching you, I felt my heart pound." Eli smiled faintly. "On Earth, danger is everywhere. You get used to it. You learn to read it, not react to it. Fear doesn't help. Understanding does." Tira's eyes widened. She had grown up in a tranquil aquatic world, where predators were rare and controlled. To her, the idea of walking into a cage with a creature capable of ripping limbs off in seconds was unthinkable. "And you're just normal for humans?" she whispered. Eli shrugged. "We call it Tuesday." His tone was light, but his eyes were serious. "The important part is to see the danger, respect it, and move carefully. You don't need to fight it unless it attacks, and even then, panic is your enemy, not the predator." The other cadets started to gather around, asking questions, their curiosity overcoming their fear. Aliens who had once whispered about human recklessness now whispered about respect, awe, and disbelief. Eli answered quietly, sharing techniques, movements, and ways to read the predator's signals. As the sun set behind the space station, casting long shadows over the training hall, Professor Krith approached Eli. "Your species, perhaps we underestimated you. Most of my students would not have survived a minute in your place." Eli shook his head. "Survive? Maybe. Understand? Definitely. That's the difference." The professor's antennae twitched in approval. The other students looked on, eyes wide, realizing that humans were not only strong but clever in ways they could barely comprehend. Stories of Deathworlders were not exaggerations. They were reality. And for the first time, many alien cadets understood that survival wasn't about weapons, tools, or numbers. It was about mind, heart, and understanding the world around you. By the time Eli left the lab, whispers filled the halls. The Deathworlder tamed the beast. He faced it calmly. He didn't even flinch. Eli didn't mind. To him, it had been simple. A lesson for aliens, sure, but for humans, this was just a reminder of what it meant to be alive. Respect life, respect danger, and move with awareness. The rest, he knew, would follow naturally. As he walked back to his dorm, he thought about the day ahead. Tomorrow, the academy would likely test him again, perhaps with something even more dangerous. He smiled faintly. He had faced storms, wild predators, and chaos on Earth. Compared to that, this was Tuesday. And somewhere deep in the galaxy, alien students would remember the human who faced a predator with nothing but calm, a quiet mind, and an understanding that fear is only useful when it is controlled. The morning after the Predator interaction class, the Galactic Academy of Unified Sciences buzzed with whispers and murmurs. Holographic recordings of Eli Grant's calm handling of the Tharn beast had spread throughout the academy faster than any rumor could. Students stopped mid-step in corridors to watch the video again, replaying the moment the predator had backed down, its eyes fixed on a human who refused to show fear. Even students from distant wings of the station, who had only heard about humans in legends, crowded around screens to witness the remarkable event. Eli moved through the hallways as if nothing had happened. To him, it was just another class, another day. He carried his books under one arm, his other hand brushing against the smooth surface of the station walls as he walked. The attention he drew was palpable, yet he ignored it, accustomed to being watched. Aliens whispered behind him, their languages blending into a strange hum of curiosity and awe. Some even took notes, sketching his posture, his calm breathing, and the way he had maintained focus in the presence of the Tharn beast. In the cafeteria, Tira, the timid aquatic cadet, waited for him. She had swum from her dormitory just to find him before the first lecture. Her fins flicked nervously as he approached. I watched the recordings again, she said, her voice trembling. I still don't understand. How do you stay calm? Even thinking about it makes my heart pound. Eli smiled faintly. You get used to danger, he said simply. On my world, there is always something trying to kill you. You either learn to stay calm or you don't survive. Fear isn't the enemy, it's panic. Panic gets you hurt. Calmness keeps you alive. Tira blinked, trying to imagine a world like that. Her aquatic home was serene, with dangers few and far between. Sharks occasionally prowled the deep, but they were distant, and the only storms she had ever faced were minor tidal waves. So, this is normal for humans? She asked, almost in disbelief. Eli shrugged. Normal or not, it's just the way we survive. Understanding danger is better than fighting it blindly. By mid-morning, news of Eli's demonstration reached Professor Krith, who had been discussing predator behavior with colleagues in another wing of the station. He decided to take things further. If this human can control the Tharn beast with his calm, perhaps he can teach others, Krith said to himself, antennae twitching. He sent a message to the Academy administration, requesting an official demonstration session with Eli as the instructor. When the announcement reached the students, there was a mixture of excitement and fear. Aliens who had failed in the last class now had the opportunity to learn from the human who seemed untouchable. A crowd formed in the central lab hall, buzzing with anticipation. Some students carried notepads, others recording devices, and a few simply watched with wide eyes, unable to believe what they were about to see. Eli arrived shortly after, carrying nothing but his survival kit. The Tharn beast's cage was open, but the creature remained calm, pacing slowly as if it remembered the previous day's encounter. Eli stepped forward, his eyes scanning the crowd. Today, he said, his voice steady, you'll learn how to face danger without losing yourself. It's not about fighting or winning. It's about understanding. Everything alive responds to how you feel. If you panic, it panics. If you are calm, it will listen. The first demonstration was simple. Eli asked Tira to come forward. Her fins trembled, and her skin shimmered faintly with nervous energy. She had seen him handle the beast, but the thought of touching or approaching it herself made her shrink back. Breathe, Eli instructed softly. Feel your body. Feel your heartbeat. Now focus on your intention. You are not here to hurt it. You are here to understand it. Tira swallowed hard and tried to mimic his slow, controlled breathing. She stepped closer, keeping her hands low and making no sudden movements. The Tharn beast tilted its head, observing her carefully. A flick of its tail caused her to flinch, but Eli's calm voice guided her. Steady. It's testing you, not attacking you. Show it you are aware, not afraid. Minutes passed, but they felt like hours. Tira's fins stilled, her breathing synchronized with Eli's instructions, and the Tharn beast finally backed away slightly. The room erupted in murmurs of amazement. Aliens who had never been near predators gasped. Some even applauded quietly. Tira blinked in astonishment. I did it, she whispered. Eli nodded. You didn't do anything extraordinary. You just stayed calm. That is all it takes. One by one, students volunteered under his guidance. A small quadrupedal alien from a desert planet, a winged avian species from a high-gravity world, even a six-limbed insectoid with multiple eyes, all faced the Tharn beast or smaller predators. Some failed initially, but with Eli's patient guidance, they learned to control their fear, to breathe steadily, and to project calm rather than panic. Professor Krith watched from the side, antennae twitching in disbelief and admiration. Perhaps we underestimated the humans, he murmured. They are not fearless, they are wise about danger. As the demonstration continued, Eli shared lessons beyond predator interaction. He talked about observing movements, understanding intentions, and recognizing patterns in behavior. He described situations on Earth where humans survived extreme storms, earthquakes, and encounters with apex predators, emphasizing that survival depended on preparation, awareness, and mental control, not just strength. By midday, the crowd had grown even larger. Other professors arrived to observe, curious about the humans' techniques. Students who had once mocked the stories of Deathworlders now followed his instructions eagerly, absorbing every word. The Academy's media systems broadcast parts of the demonstration across the station, ensuring that even distant wings could witness the lessons. After a break, Eli decided to teach a more advanced exercise. This time, the Tharn beast's cage contained a smaller, more aggressive predator from a volcanic world. Its scales glowed faintly and it hissed constantly, Sensing the tension in the room, alien students stared, frozen with fear. "Stand steady," Eli instructed. "Do not move until you feel ready. The creature will test you, but it will not attack if you remain calm." The first few students tried and failed. The predator lunged, claws scraping, and they jumped back in panic. Eli approached, his calm presence acting as a stabilizer in the room. He demonstrated slow, deliberate movements, lowering his body slightly, keeping his hands visible but relaxed. The predator paused, eyes locked on him. Then he asked a nervous alien student to try again. With Eli guiding each movement verbally, the student approached carefully. The predator hissed, but the student remained steady, breathing slowly. It stepped back. A cheer went up across the room. Hours passed with more students practicing, each gaining confidence. By the end of the day, a majority of the class could face the predator without panic, something previously unimaginable. Aliens whispered among themselves, realizing that humans were not naturally fearless. They were trained by survival, by constant exposure to danger, and by understanding life in a way that few species experienced. As the lab cleared, Tira approached Eli again. Her fins quivered slightly, but her expression showed pride. I can face the predator now," she said. "Thanks to you," Eli smiled, ruffling her hair gently. "It's not thanks to me. You did it yourself. You learned to control yourself and understand what was around you. That is the lesson." Professor Krith walked up, antennae twitching. "Cadet Grant," he said, "your species is remarkable. Other humans may not be physically extraordinary, but their understanding, their calmness under pressure, it is unmatched. I hope our academy can learn more from you." Eli chuckled faintly. "On Earth, that's normal. We survive because we have to. We learn to understand, not just react. That is all." The other cadets gathered, whispering and sharing their own experiences from the day. Some had overcome fears they thought they would never face. Others were inspired to practice patience, awareness, and calmness in ways they had never imagined. Humans had entered their lives not as conquerors, but as teachers of survival in its purest, most practical form. By evening, the academy's halls were alive with new energy. Alien students practiced their breathing, observed their surroundings, and discussed predator behavior with a respect and understanding they had never shown before. Humans, who had once been considered fragile or reckless by many, were now recognized as beings whose very existence proved adaptability, resilience, and intelligence. Eli walked back to his dormitory alone, carrying nothing but a small satchel. He looked out at the swirling colors of the gas giant below, thinking about the students, the predators, and the lessons they had learned. To him it was simple. Survival depended on understanding, awareness, and control. Fear was natural, but mastery over fear. That was what separated the capable from the doomed. Somewhere deep in the academy, Professor Krith looked at the empty lab hall and muttered to himself, "Perhaps humans are not simply a species to observe. Perhaps they are a standard to aspire to." Eli smiled quietly to himself. He did not think of himself as extraordinary. He had grown up facing storms, wild animals, and dangers his alien classmates could only imagine. For him, this was normal. For the students he had taught, this was extraordinary. And in that difference, they found inspiration, respect, and a new nuance.